Hey everybody! This video is going to go over all of the homework assignments in the week 3 module. So when you clicked on this tab here for the week 3 homework assignments, I'm sure you were not happy to see so many assignments listed for this week. I know it looks like a lot. However, everything that we're covering this week, if you remember, is all about revision and like proofreading and editing. So while there are numerous items to complete, it should all be somewhat of a review. And I don't think any of it is terribly difficult. We've got one assignment on sentence fragments and run-ons. We've got another one on eliminating ineffective writing, so getting rid of wordiness, getting rid of cliches. And then a third one on recognizing and correcting misplaced and dangling modifiers. Then we have another one on practice at sentence combining. And then, of course, there's the weekly discussion. Now, it is possible that you might be able to get through these assignments and maybe didn't even really go through much of the lessons in the week 3 module, because this really should be review. So if you happen to have some stronger skills, if you remember a lot of the stuff that we learned in elementary school, junior high, and high school, maybe other college classes you've taken at other schools, then these homework assignments might really be truly review for you. I will say though that I do highly recommend everyone going over the lessons on sentence fragments and run-ons and comma splices. Those are the two lessons that you need in order to do week 3 assignment 1 on fragments and run-ons. And these errors are so common in writing, and a lot of students, a lot of people in general, really don't understand exactly what run-ons and comma splices are. So even if you don't really go through the rest of the lessons as carefully as we do in other weeks, I do still suggest that you at least look over the handouts on fragments and run-ons and comma splices, and maybe go ahead and watch the videos for those two lessons as well. Now, that's my advice. Now I'm going to tell you what you actually need to do for each of the assignments listed. So the first one is week 3 assignment 1, fragments and run-ons. So part 1 is all about sentence fragments. What you have are 5 groups of sentences. In each group, there is a fragment. Your job is to first underline the fragment. Now remember, a fragment looks like a sentence. It starts with a capital letter and it has a period at the end. So it's trying to pose as a complete sentence, but for one reason or another, it is actually not complete. It is a fragment in some way. So what you underline should look like a whole sentence. Your underlining should go from the capital letter at the beginning all the way to the period. And there's only one of them in each group. So you shouldn't be underlining 2 sentences, just one. Which one is the fragment? Underline it. And then fix it. Now, fixing it could happen a number of ways, but you'll probably notice as you go through each set that there's very easy ways to fix the fragment, possibly just attaching it to the sentence it goes with, whether it's the sentence before it or the sentence after it, whatever the case may be. But that's all you have to do. Underline the fragment and fix it. There are no other errors, no other mistakes in the groups of sentences. Everything else is perfectly fine. Underline the fragment and fix it. Part 2 of this assignment is then about run-on sentences and comma splices. So you've got 9 sentences that are each one has two or more sentences jammed together. They are either jammed together with zero punctuation separating them, so the first one just runs right into the next one. That's a run-on sentence. Or the two sentences are separated by just a comma. That's a comma splice. It is a special type of run-on sentence because it's so prevalent. It's such a common error that we give it its own special category because so many people think that you can separate two complete sentences with just a comma, but you can't. A comma by itself is not strong enough to join two sentences together. So when you're looking through the 9 sentences or the 9 sets here, each one of them is a run-on or comma splice. Your job is to figure out where the mistake happened and fix it. You want to use at least each method of correction explained in the handout in the video. You want to use each method at least once. All right? And it will kind of make sense as you go through them when you should use each method, which one suits it best. And then that's all you have to do. Just correct each sentence where the run-on or comma splice occurs. Use each method at least once. Be sure that when you are making your corrections that you don't create a comma splice. That's still wrong, okay? Everything else in the sentences is correct. It's just that one spot where the first sentence runs into the next, or where the first sentence is followed by a comma, and then the second sentence. Identify the run-on or comma splice and fix it. Use each method at least once. This is going to be, this is going to be a text submission, so you'll have to copy and paste both parts into the text box, and then you'll be able to do your underlining and make your corrections. If you have any questions about it, let me know. So then week 3 assignment 2 is on eliminating ineffective writing. So this is where we're talking about being concise, getting rid of the wordiness, getting rid of useless repetition, making sure we have fresh language instead of cliches, right? So part 1 of this one, we have 7 phrases that are often used when we speak and when we write, but they're awfully wordy, and your job is to say them more efficiently. So say the same thing with less words. I will give you a kind of a tip here. If you're struggling with part 1, one thing you can do is use the phrase in a sentence, and then it becomes a little easier to figure out how you can replace the phrase with a single word, right? So I might give that a shot. Part 2 is on cliches. So there are 10 cliches listed. Your job is to pick 7 of them and state them in a new way. You don't have to be creative. You can literally just tell me what it means. And that might seem boring, but we don't want the cliches in our writing. They're not fresh and new and unique enough, right? And then we have a second part on cliches. You have a paragraph that is chock full of cliches and clutter words. If you aren't sure what clutter words are, go back to the handout or the video lesson on eliminating ineffective writing. So your job here is to underline any cliche phrases or clutter words that you find in the paragraph. There are at least 20 that you could identify. I think there's actually more than 30. I want you to identify at least 10. But don't simply underline anything and everything. Really try to figure out where the cliches are and maybe even where the clutter words are. So you'll just underline them when you find them, and that's it. This is also a text submission, so you'll have to copy and paste everything into the text box, and then you'll be able to make your corrections and underline all the things you need to do. If you have any questions about week 3 assignment 2, let me know. Week 3 assignment 3 is on modifiers. So we talked in the lesson on modifiers, we talked about misplaced modifiers and dangling modifiers. This assignment is going to cover both of them. So you have a list of 15, there's 15 sentences. Each sentence either has a misplaced modifier or a dangling modifier. I have even put in bold the part of the sentences. I've bolded part of the sentences to kind of draw your attention to the section that is questionable. So hopefully if you are looking at that bolded area, it'll kind of spark your thinking and you'll be able to figure out what the problem is. So remember, misplaced modifiers, the modifier is just in the wrong spot. If it's a dangling modifier though, the thing that it's modifying is missing from the sentence, so you have to add it in. So you will want to correct each one of them. Sometimes that might just mean rearranging the words, putting it in the correct spot. Other times it's going to need a little bit more work, but all it's going to require is just maybe adding in a subject and possibly changing some prepositions or something like that. That will be a text submission as well. So you'll copy and paste into the text box and rearrange or rewrite the sentences as needed. And then the last assignment, well, the fourth assignment, week 3 assignment 4, is on sentence combining. So for this one, you have 5 groups of sentences. Each group needs to be combined into one single grammatically correct sentence. You can do this. Every single one of them can be combined into one single grammatically correct sentence. If you really need to, you can use a semicolon once. However, you shouldn't need to. You can get all of the information in each set into one sentence. So for instance, number 1 says, Wile E. Coyote chases Roadrunner. Wile E. Coyote goes off the cliff for the 6 millionth time. The world laughs anyway. You can get all the information in those 3 individual sentences. You can get all that information into one single grammatically correct sentence. And you can for all 5 sets. That's our goal. You can use a semicolon once if you need to, and be sure that you don't end up creating a run-on sentence or comma splice in your answer. This is a text submission as well, so you'll copy and paste the sentences into the text box and combine them and submit it. And the final piece of homework for week 3 is, of course, the week 3 discussion. And for the week 3 discussion, we are going to be discussing how we prepare for an exam. So how do you prepare for an exam? If you were going to explain to someone how best to prepare for an exam, what would you say? Your instructions could be limited to what you do the day of the exam, or maybe the night before, or maybe you want to discuss what you do in the days or weeks leading up to an exam. The time frame's up to you, but the idea is to take us through your process of preparing for an exam, guide us through your steps. This can be as serious or as humorous as you want it to be. I'm not necessarily, if you guys end up giving each other some great advice, if someone has a really outstanding process for preparing for an exam, then the rest of the class could absolutely benefit from that. But as far as what the purpose of the discussion prompt is, it's not to necessarily share with the class at this point. It's really about learning or thinking about how to explain a process. So what is your process for preparing for an exam? Try to respond to the prompt by Thursday night at 11:59 p.m. and then respond to 2 of your classmates by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. But no matter what, remember the discussion closes for good at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night. So make sure you have everything posted before it closes because I'm unable to reopen it. So again, I know that's a lot, but hopefully those other homework assignments on the grammar and mechanics, hopefully those are fairly quick for you. But if you are questioning any of the material, if you're not sure how to do any of those assignments, I would first suggest going back through the lessons in the weekly module, and then of course reaching out to me, and I will help you however I can. Otherwise, good luck with everything, and I'm excited to see how you guys prepare for tests.